You're now listening to All Hog Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimpson.
The state of Arkansas basketball. I know this kind of sounds more like serious than it actually is, but in this episode, I'm just talking about where the basketball team stands now. And there's a lot of different factors to combine in for the recent losses to LSU and Bama, where we got destroyed, and it was really embarrassing. However, I think there's lots to talk about in this regard. But before I get into that, Arkansas is 10-4 right now, 2-4 in the SEC, and 4 losses to good teams of Alabama, LSU, Missouri, and then Tennessee. We played the Tennessee game good, though. No quarter one wins at all. Number 36 in the NET rankings. But before that, I just wanted to say sorry I wasn't able to make any shows last week. I had just some school stuff to finish up. However, this week I'm going to have 4 episodes released, and I'll talk about the schedule at the end of the show. But we keep going with different starting fives to try to figure things out. When your team's in a slump, this makes sense. The starting five that Arkansas went for the Alabama game was guard Desi Sills, guard Moses Moody, guard Jalen Tate, forward Justin Smith, and then forward Jalen Williams. We just keep trying to move the rotation around to figure out what's best and what's going to win us SEC games. And I think that's going to keep changing until we kind of become more consistent and, we perform well against pretty good SEC teams. But we're in a slump. Lost 4 out of the last 5 games in conference play, and then the last 2 games we were dominated. Don't get me wrong, LSU and Alabama are really good teams. I did not think we were going to go on the road and win either of these games. I did not think that was going to happen. However, I thought we were going to put up a fight and lose by single digits. But we got beat horribly in both of those games. And we just got outplayed. And just every single stat, we just didn't really perform well. And there's been certain players, and this slump has a lot of different factors. There's been players who played really good out of conference, but then we moved into this non-conference play after the Auburn game. They've been in a slump as well. So when you have players in a slump, your team's going to be in a slump. That's just, 2 correlating factors. You can be concerned about this team. I am concerned. I don't know where we're going to sit within bracketology, March Madness, and trying to get in the NCAA Tournament right now. It's too early to tell. Consistency has just not been there. We played like a top 10 team against Tennessee, but then we looked like a bottom feeder of the SEC against LSU and Bama. You can be concerned like I am without being panicked. A panic would be, season's done, we're not making the tourney, we're 12th in the SEC. That's just ridiculous. You can be concerned without being panicked. It's a team sport at the end of the day, and there's frustrating issues. However, you use this adversity in the slump to get better. You use that as motivation for the team, for yourself, and to play better moving forward. You build on it. And the thing is, you can criticize things without calling for someone to get fired. Sure, not everything was perfect, and every coaching staff is capable of making mistakes. It was 2 games. If you're calling for Eric Musselman to get fired, that is just ridiculous. His seat is as cold as we were from the floor the last 2 games. And if you watch those, you know how cold that is. You can't fire a head coach after 2 years and expect yourself to be a good basketball program. There's obvious concerns with this team, but there's a lot of time left in conference play and then SEC tournament to see if we can make the big dance. However, a bright spot for this team is Moses Moody. He's being mocked as a top 10 lottery pick for the NBA draft, no doubt about it. 28 out of 59 points against Bama. 3 out of the 4 team 3-pointers. The effort he puts on the field is really good, and then his shot selection is just really smart. And just things along that line, proving himself to be a top NBA prospect. And he showed that against Bama. I just wanted to throw that out there. He did a really good job. Now, concerns I have with this team and some struggles is perimeter defense. Last year, we were one of the best teams in the nation on guarding the 3. Now we are 9th in the SEC, And our three-point defense has been really bad. Other teams have been getting three-pointers really easy on us, and the offense just hasn't been able to keep up with that because, putting so many three-pointers on the board, you're going to be hard to win games when you're giving up 90-plus points against LSU and Bama. And then turnovers. I think there's two factors within this. I think one is just, poor passing selection. There's times where there's like three guys in the paint and we try to make a contested pass. That just doesn't make sense. And then I still think, point guard is just a little bit of a struggle, and your point guard's always going to be the guy on the team to direct the offense and decide that. So when your point guards aren't playing the best, you're going to have more turnovers. Also, just having quality shots is important as well, which goes along with shooting. Sometimes when we get contested shots, we try to throw them up and they don't go in, and, you're not going to shoot well from the floor doing that. And then paint play has been a big one, struggling on getting layups. Layups are really easy points in basketball. If you're a basketball fan, you know that, getting a layup is probably one of the easiest shots, and that's something Arkansas hasn't been able to do. This goes along with finishing shots around the rim. However, I'm hoping Justin Smith's return will provide some relief. 15 days after his ankle surgery, he played and started for the Razorback, logging about 19 minutes. So I hope as we move on, we'll see better paint play and layups and dunks from Smith. And then there's just certain plays that don't work that are just designed. Like I talked about earlier, the passing in the paint through three defenders. There's certain shots that we set up that just never seem to go in. And we've gotten rid of some of those, and some of those have continued. So, that's just the coaching staff to look at and determine. Then just getting out-rebounded as well, and then we can't get a hot start. When you put 19 points up in the first half like we did, you're hardly going to win a basketball game. That's extremely hard to do. You have to get out there and, keep playing your best ball within the first minutes, or else the game's going to run from you. And the starting five changes a lot, and this isn't really a struggle as much as just something to point out. I just think when you have a starting five, you keep trying to find those five guys. And I think once we find those five guys, consistency is going to get better. And a lot of these struggles that I talk about will become less prominent because, it's just more consistent. You have the same guys starting each game. So where do we go from here? Well, you have to bounce back. You can go through slumps and you cannot perform your best basketball. I think what we've been seeing the last days is not the team that we saw earlier this year. We've been playing two different types of basketball. You're in a slump right now, and to get out of that is important, and just bouncing back up from each players in a team standpoint. Just getting out of slumps for different players, for the team is important, and that's how you bounce back and put yourself in a position to make the NCAA tournament. Now the schedule gets a lot easier. Auburn at home on Wednesday, at Vanderbilt on Saturday, Ole Miss at home after that, at Oklahoma State in the Big 12/SEC Challenge. Oklahoma State is probably the toughest team out of all of these in my opinion. Mississippi State at home, Texas A&M at home, and then at Kentucky. However, this year's Kentucky Wildcats is not your normal year Kentucky Wildcats. I think in the stretch we have to get a quality win somewhere, whether that be a mid-tier SEC win where we dominate, because we dominated Georgia, and, they just aren't good. We just have to get wins, and I think performing well in wins and getting double-digit wins is important, but a big point is that at Oklahoma State game, that's another chance to get a quadrant one win, which the Razorbacks do not have right now. I thought we would lose the LSU and Bama game. I'm 13-1 on my predictions right now. The only game I got wrong was the Missouri game. I thought we were going to use LSU-Bama, however, I did not think it was going to be like that. It's embarrassing and it's frustrating. However, I think the schedule gets easier and we can still bounce back. I haven't lost hope. Now, lots of stuff playing this week here at All Hog Sports Podcast. Now, tomorrow, I got the Auburn preview releasing. Arkansas plays Auburn on Wednesday night. Wednesday, I got the 2020 football season recap. I know it's kind of long overdue, but hey, better late than never. And then Friday, I got the Auburn recap from the game on Wednesday, and then Vanderbilt preview, which is on Saturday. Lots of stuff to talk about. However, I think this team can rebound, and I haven't given up hope yet. Also, Arkansas baseball is coming up soon. I'm looking forward to that as well. But obviously, it's a tougher thing to talk about when your team's losing. That's why I don't, sound as upbeat. However, I think Razorbacks can rebound after this. Now, you can find all ways to listen in all social medias, including my Twitter, at allhogsports.com, and my Twitter is at allhogsportspod. Same social media on Instagram and Facebook. Lots of stuff going out on all those social medias and such, but you know the deal. As always, we'll pig suey.
That's all for today's episode of All Hog Sports with Sam Stimpson. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode covering all Arkansas Razorback sports. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media too. On Twitter and Instagram at All Hog Sports Pod. Like on Facebook at All Hog Sports and Arkansas Razorbacks Podcast. And on YouTube at that same name. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Go Hogs!